I will say a prayer about spirituality. 我的上帝啊，我的上帝啊，您的仆人正举步朝向你，在您慈爱的沙漠中激动彷徨，行走在服务您的途径上，期望着您的恩惠，渴望着你的赏赐，仰赖着你的天国，并为你所赐的甘醇而欣喜若狂。我的上帝啊，强化那爱慕您的热情，赞美你的坚定及崇敬您的热忱吧。诚然，您是富有无量恩泽的贤上者，除您之外别无上帝。您是赦免者、慈悲者。阿卜杜巴哈。
O thou peerless and loving Lord, though capacity and worthiness are lacking, and it is infinitely hard to withstand tribulations, yet worthiness and capacity are gifts vouchsafed by thee. O Lord, give us capacity and make us worthy, that we may evince the most great steadfastness, renounce this world and all its people, kindle the fire of thy love, and even as candles burn bright with a consuming flame and shed abroad our radiance. O Lord of the kingdom, deliver us from this world of vain illusions and lead us under the realm of the infinite. Suffer us to be wholly freed from this nether life and cause us to be blessed with the bountiful gifts of the kingdom. Release us from this world of nothingness that beareth the semblance of reality, and confer upon us everlasting life. Bestow on us joy and delight, and favor us with gladness and contentment. Comfort our hearts, and grant peace and tranquility to our souls, so that upon ascending unto thy kingdom, we may attain thy presence and may rejoice in the realms above. Thou art the giver, the bestower, the Almighty. Abdul.
Allahu Akbar. Ya Tuhan, kami ini lemah, berilah kami kekuatan. Kami ini miskin, anugerahilah kami dengan kekayaan-Mu yang tak terbatas. Kami ini sakit, berilah kami kesembuhan keilahian-Mu. Kami ini tak berdaya, berilah kami kekuatan surgawi-Mu. Ya Tuhan, jadikanlah kami berguna di dunia ini. Bebaskanlah kami dari keadaan keakuan dan hawa nafsu. Ya Tuhan, jadikanlah kami teguh dalam cinta-Mu dan mungkinkanlah kami menyayangi seluruh umat manusia. Bantulah kami menjadi hamba dari hamba-hamba-Mu, agar kami dapat mencintai semua makhluk-Mu dan mengasihi seluruh umat-Mu. Ya Tuhan, Engkaulah Maha Perkasa, Engkaulah Maha Pengasih, Engkaulah Maha Pengampun, Engkaulah Maha Kuasa. Abdul Baha.
Dear friends, it is my honor to welcome each and every one of you to our Thursday evening firesides. Thank you very much for joining us from four corners of the world indeed. Thank you. Before I start to introduce Dr. Farzam Kamalabadi, I would like to acknowledge the presence of Mr. Iraj Kamalabadi. Mr. Kamalabadi and I go very far. There was a time that their sister, Mrs. Fariba Kamalabadi, was spending the first 10 years of their prison. And Mr. Kamalabadi, Mr. Iraj Kamalabadi, was accepted and agreed to give an interview with his mother, Mrs. Kamalabadi, about their daughter and their sister for the Baha'i radio. That has been one of the most unbelievable things that have happened. Usually people don't do that, but Iraj Khan and Mrs. Kamalabadi accepted to do that. This is the first time I will thank them for the sacrifice they made. Really appreciate it. Now go to Dr. Kamalabadi. First of all, I didn't know Dr. Kamalabadi was a doctor. I sent the invitation to a friend, and I realized that he advertised it with Dr. Kamalabadi, and I got very upset. I said, we can't change the bio. And I sent him a nice message, and he said, you didn't know he was a doctor? So next time, Dr. Kamalabadi, when you send your bio to poor people like me, please be complete. Dr. Kamalabadi, as I'm sure you all know him, is a world-renowned influential personality, especially in China, the Middle East, Africa, and the West. He has had a wide-ranging career in finance, the digital economy, energy, and assisting with national strategies in the face of global change. Dr. Kamalabadi is the founder of the movement of the collective peaceful rise of Africa, also named the Surprise Rise of Africa, as he previously accomplished the Surprise Rise of China. I took the liberty of adding a little bit from internet to his bio. Aspire magazine writes, Farzam Kamalabadi is a force of pure human grit, having built future trend simultaneously as he forged and chiseled the fate of nations, particularly China, the Middle East, Africa, and the West. As you know, the subject of tonight is the relevance of the Baha'i revelation to today's world reality, and I would like to express my complete and utter gratitude for him to be awakened at this time, about 3:30 in the morning in Dubai. Please go ahead. Welcome, Dr. Kamalabadi.
Greetings, blessings, Allahu Abha, and also my deep appreciation. You know, we have to be awake because the whole world is rotating, and humanity, partially we must sleep, but mostly we have to be awake. It means in the sense of significance of it. The waking state is symbolic of awareness. Of course, if the sleeping state is in the dream and in the dream of inspiration and revelation, it has also value. Well, each world or realms or conditions are all significant. In fact, I'm just starting by being very pleased that I'm among many of the old friends here, which means then I don't have to stand on ceremony and I don't have to worry that my presentation is not going to be that good. So I'll just have no fear, and we'll move forward, and I'll try to go very systematically as much as I can. Thank you for giving this platform. And I just, when I was asked to talk about it, knowing that it was going to be past midnight, I still thought of a few topics that have maybe importance or weight or value. And I gave several of them, and our hostess, she chose this one. I will go through even the title because it has a meaning. I use the word relevance and the Baha'i revelation and today's world realities. So I want to a little bit open this topic itself. Relevance means something that is related, that matches, maybe it enhances, maybe it elevates, maybe it's related relevance in the sense that it is not off, it is very valuable, but more important, actually, it means that it is very significant. So I wanted to emphasize that the Baha'i revelation is of the highest value, of the highest significance. In fact, it is of vital significance. When we say vital, means it's a matter of life or death. That's exactly what I mean by the word vital. That means actually it is a matter of life, because we don't dwell on negativities. Even on any use of vocabulary, we understand the limitations which create negativities, but we go way beyond them, because both the kingdom of God and the kingdom of creation are all limitless. Therefore, our existence is limitless. Therefore, our conceptions of our mind are limitless. Therefore, our creation of positivity in the world is limitless. Therefore, we don't dwell on negativities, although we truly understand them. So the relevance and significance of the Baha'i faith, first I say, is that it sheds light, it clarifies, it creates a framework, and it gives answers and solutions. More than that, it propels. In fact, it has injected certain, you can say, potent spirit, mind, and also material progress, and you can say fundamental change into the realities of the world. So again, I want to go word by word. When I say the Baha'i revelation, what do I mean when we say the Baha'i revelation? First of all, on a personal level, we say, oh, I had a revelation or an inspiration. Actually, revelation is much more higher and more potent than an inspiration. Inspiration is a soft coming to a certain new understanding that it seems it wasn't from myself. It was inspired from outside. Well, it can be inspired from others, or it can be inspired from an invisible source. Whereas revelation, it is all of a sudden revealed, all of a sudden appeared. It wasn't there. I was in the dark, and all of a sudden I had a revelation. Well, that is in the human world. When we talk about a divine revelation, we mean an entire system of knowledge, gnosis, understanding, thinking, in fact, patterns of basically deep realization of realities that was not there. And when you have it in a mega scale and in a vast scale, a revelation becomes a body of what I call, in this revelation, that means in this era that we think, not with belief, the history of it, we know it started from certain unusual, we can call them realities, personalities, figures. Of course, everyone is in this human world. We are talking about a human reality that has other dimensions. And so here, revelation means a vast body of knowledge, system, and solutions, and beyond that, a spirit that moves and motivates and generates and regenerates on a universal, on a very large scale. I call it the Big Bang of knowledge, the Big Bang of revelation. If it is only a small thing, and also what I call it, if it is a partial, superficial, fragmented, then it has no relevance. Then it doesn't have any significance. Then it is not meaningful. We both, as Baha'is and as those who are new to the knowledge source of the Baha'i revelation, we should come to a realization we are not talking about a faith or a religion or just another pattern of human thought. We are not talking about something that is mundane, but something that is sublime and something that is a higher jump in the evolutionary system of humanity. Something that is the propeller of human history like never before. Something that is the source and not the follower, or not the only simple passive outcome. It is the thing that defines the outcomes and everything. Therefore, it has its what we call not just relevance, but it defines everything. Therefore, all other things derive their relevance from it, from this. This is the Baha'i revelation. Do we understand it fully? Not at all. Even the most erudite or the most enlightened Baha'is of today will not understand the stupendity, that means the significance and the volume and the value and the enormity of the contributions that this system has already given to the human civilization, and it is affecting the today's world, whatever direction that it goes to positivity, nothing to do with negativity. The relevance of the Baha'i revelation has nothing to do with the negativities of humanity. It is uplifting humanities out of the accumulated, basically dross, or we can call it accumulated garbage of its falsities and its misunderstandings and its all negativities. So this revelation's relevance is not only to today's world. It actually, since its inception nearly 2 centuries ago, it has been the source of massive changes, fundamental changes, and noticeable changes in humanity. So the first relevance is that it has already affected a mega change in the direction of humanity. We will go through that. The second relevance is on today's world is that it has solutions and remedies to, you can call it major, and you can call it the primary ills of society and of the world polity and the world systems. Therefore, its relevance is in being the source of numerous solutions and packages of solutions once adopted, and that adopted itself has many processes. Once adopted, not even fully, but to a significant level, you can say the world will turn to be another world. You can say the darkness of this human civilization will be light upon light. You can say the concept and the dream and the promise of the divine kingdom of God on earth easily becomes a reality in a very short time, as the revelation is a revelation, and therefore the embodiment, and you can say the not just the relevance, but the prevalence of the revelation can become immediate, effective, significant, game-changing. So what do we mean today's world? Actually, today is not associated from yesterday, but it is also the prelude to future. In the Baha'i revelation, which is a vast system of knowledge, understanding, potencies, inspirations, and system mega changes that has been, you can say, embedded in the world. And you can say it was injected to the world, that it wasn't there. It was absent. And all of a sudden, the world has been impregnated with it. And therefore, the world has now started in a spiral way up. You can call it is therefore very important to understand the relevance or significance of the Baha'i revelation, the vast big bang of new system change. And it is the thing that is shaped already and will shape the realities of the recent past, the immediate future, and the distant future. Its impact is universal, global, permanent, significant, and you can say revolutionizing in all the aspects that the human existence is experiencing. I was talking to a friend who is now in other world, Mr. Dai Zhou, and he was the #1 ideologue of China. He is the one who wrote all the theories of President first Deng Xiaoping, then Jiang Zemin, mostly Jiang Zemin, then Hu Jintao, and then of course he passed away. But the China leaders have really used the body of his think tank thinking. #1 in the think tank of China, #1 ideologue. I was telling him some realities are so outdated, they're stifling the progress of the times. They are actually killing and they are suppressing the progress of the times. That's one category of thoughts, systems, ideologies, and methodologies. They are dead and they are pulling down humanity. There are other ideologies, as I said, that are a blockage and are pulling down humanity. And there are some ideologies, the third category, that are limping, trying to catch up with the realities of the time. And well, they are doing their best, but they are so far behind, and they fall short on answering the needs and the exigencies of the time. There are other thought patterns or systems of knowledge and prevalent value systems that are just, you can say, they are apart with the times. They are maybe even abreast of the times, let's call it. But they are still not the maker. They are not the source. They are still the receiver, but they're catching up with the times. Great. Instead of limping to catch, instead of stifling, instead of killing the realities of the time, instead of being detrimental, at least they are abreast. There are other realities and thought pattern systems that are way ahead of the time. They are way ahead of the time because these visionaries, whether visionary people, visionary nations, visionary policies, visionary religious belief patterns, okay, they are ahead of the time. They understand, they encompass, and they move forward, but not necessarily significant enough. The Baha'i revelation is not only not far from the times, not only is ahead of the times, it's actually the source of the creation of all the progress and propeller of the times. It's way ahead of the time to the point that it is actually pulling and lifting upward the entire collectivity of humanity. So it is very important, even as Baha'is, to realize this is not a religion. This is not our belief system that our maybe forefathers or us ourselves discovered. It is an unusually vast mega system of basically solutions, knowledge. Even these words are limiting it. It is a vast body of both writings, experiences, and also taking shape and shaping societies, individuals, families, and also communities, nations, and beyond that, giving a push forward and a pull upward of the entirety of the destinies of humanity. Therefore, the revelation that is of highest, not just relevance, but significance, and a highest game changer in the destinies of humanity. I can call it the brilliant, the utter brilliance of the future divine civilization of the existing poor, poverty-stricken, bankrupted in ideology humanity. No wonder when Shoghi Effendi says, leaders of religion, exponents of political theories, governors of human institutions, who are witnessing with perplexity and dismay the bankruptcy of their ideas and the disintegration of their handiworks, might do well to gaze their attention to the revelation of Baha'u'llah. So it means that all the other thoughts, whether leaders of religions, whether exponents of many diverse political theories, in fact contending, in fact fighting and warring, theories, thinkings, values, even governors of human institutions, day in and day out, they are at a loss. They are perplexed. They are dismayed. They are pulling their hair out, that are not meeting the needs of the time. They are not solving problems. They are not the antidote. They are the poison of the body of humanity. Although the innovations and the sciences leap forward, and yet the realities that govern, that inspire, that direct the whole action and operations of humanity are, as Baha'u'llah says, lamentably defective. They are defective, they are ill, they are, we can say, as again Shoghi Effendi says, bankrupt, lamentably, that we have to cry over the fate of humanity. The poor humanity ill is now beaten and smitten again by its own whiplashes and its own, basically, machinations. A humanity that is so superior in its pride and maybe even on its knowledge, and it's also what we call inventions and ingenuities, yet it has become the source of its own destruction and in fact on the brink of possible annihilation. Although as the entire system of the Baha'i revelation gives realistic hope, not just hope, but sheds light to the realities of the human condition, that we will see, even though the distant future, we don't see it, the immediate future is dark. And yet beyond that, there is the birth of a totally new, promising, hopeful, and basically filled with brilliance and goodness, and what I call the highest aspirations that we could not dream are now enshrined in both the text, the community, and the destinies of the Baha'i revelation, and are contributing to the body of the whole world. So you are talking about a panacea that has been now injected into the ill and moribund, dying body of humanity. On all layers, whether it is religious systems or political institutions and or leadership, we see everything is wanting. Everything is way lower than expectation and pulling everything down. And yet the Baha'i revelation is the one and the source that has shaped the directions of humanity. We can go from this concept of framework to actually some cases. So there is a framework that the Baha'i Faith is relevant. There is a practice that the Baha'i Faith is relevant. There is a shaping of the thoughts that the Baha'i Faith is relevant, and the solutions. These are the significance, and they are systematic. First, the Baha'i Faith teaches us system-oriented mind and process-oriented mind. Therefore, it gives a whole aura of a vision that is accurate, precise, and we can call it truthful, and also yet leads and elevates humanity individually and collectively. You can call it, it is the blueprint that is accurate, that is taking humanity from the pessimistic, destructive desert of annihilation into the oasis, more than that, into the basically lavish, or you can say the highest apex that humanity can ascend. We can call that humanity, its progress has been over 10,000 years like this, a bit up, and all of a sudden a discontinuity. The Baha'i revelation is not a continuity. Although past, present, and future are always connected, this connectivity, but not continuity in the sense that we are repeating the same old patterns, mistakes, habits. It is redefinition of all the realities of humanity. Any concept that existed in the past in the body of the works of the thinkers, inventors, poets, mystics, anything, even political leaders, have been now revolutionized, redefined, and re-gifted to humanity, what I call the phoenix, the flying bird of new understanding. What does it mean? Why I use these analogies? Because humanity now is like a broken winged bird, and its foot is now captured in the mud, and it is stuck. And yet the Baha'i revelation since 180 years has been teaching humanity. When Baha'u'llah said the earth is but one country and mankind is citizen, it taught world citizenship. Today, whoever says I'm world citizen, remember, they are Baha'i. Even they don't know the Baha'i faith. They learned it from Baha'u'llah. They didn't have it. So, innovation, and in fact, a total wondrous recreation, or we can call it a total new creation, is the definitive signs of the Baha'i knowledge base and literature and body of community everywhere and anywhere, in any concept. When the Baha'i faith taught the unity and oneness of science and religion, was the time when the US patent had announced closure, self-closure, May 23rd, 1844, that whatever humanity could have thought of, inspired, invented, anything that would be able to invent has been completed no more. The door to new invention has been closed. The organization of patent has nothing new to receive, to review, to approve, and to contribute to the world of humanity. And lo and behold, when the Bob announced his mission in one corner of the earth, in the other, Samuel Morse sent the first message of telegram from Washington, D.C. to Baltimore. And it was picked by random from the Bible. Look what God hath wrought. Lo and behold, what God has created. Then all of a sudden, from there we will see from telegraph to telex to telephone to radio to television to computer to everything else that you know better. Then humanity's vibration spiral the way up, even technically, and you can call it mentally. Creativity has been inspired by the Baha'i revelation as the source of it, as the propelling power behind it. When Baha'u'llah said that the entire humanity is now immersed in the ocean of purification, no more najas, no more naturally dirty by its nature. Not only there is no what we call impurity that are intrinsic, and extended it to the races of the people and creating racial prejudices and racial, what we call it, tags and labels that by its inherent plague and leprosy, a certain part of humanity is unclean, untouchable. No, the end of it. And we see that even the timing of the slavery change and all the thinking of humanity now talking about the liberation of humanity started from Baha'u'llah's revelation, from the body of his text, and from the potency of the message that was always new and ahead of its time. Not only ahead and abreast, but it was the source of the changing of all the realities of the time. When Baha'u'llah wrote as the prisoner of Akka, in exile, as the incapable by physical conditions, under the slavery and imprisonment of the two most potentate rulers of the time, Sultan Abdul Aziz and Sultan Nasruddin, and writing letter to the most advanced nations of the world and their kings and the rulers, including Napoleon III, Pope Pius IX, Kaiser Wilhelm, and many other rulers, and collective body of the presidents of the American continent, North and South America, and predicted the futures of the world. Talked from 1863, talked about 2 world wars, and named the river of Rhine, and talked the name Berlin. And although it is inglorious today, and Napoleon III was winning the whole world, predicted the downfall of him himself. For what thou hast wrought, thy kingdom shall fall into confusion. The winning king of the whole West, that was finishing the work of Napoleon I, his great uncle. And yet in 1968, and then 1969, even his son died in the Zulu Wars, and the whole dynasty, the whole system fell down. Not only that, but all the dynasties of humanity, with the exception of few that Baha'u'llah himself had exempted, all fell apart. There were 2,000 revolutions in the 18th, 19th century. Never like before. Even in the revolution of the world, even a lot of the attacks of the Mongols and the Alexander and whatever, it was not as drastic as the 19th century and the 2 world wars. All these destructive also actually are because of the changes of the constructive forces that Baha'u'llah produced. And I say Baha'u'llah produced, the body of humanity is recipient. And therefore, to the degree they receive the solutions part, they flourish. To the degree they are denying themselves or depriving themselves of the solution, they struggle. So the struggle of humanity on the 2 directions, what the Baha'i revelation wrote as the death pangs of an old world order and the birth pangs of a new world civilization, divine in its origin. When we talk about these vocabulary, we see that this is something totally way above and beyond even the most, what we call avid of the believers. There is a gift of divine that has befallen to the hands of still childish humanity. The highest treasures and precious the child doesn't know, thinks it's toys. The solutions that cure all types of mental and other realities of humanities, in fact, all the inventions, even in the health and in the discoveries of the world that have been accelerated, they find and define their origins from the Baha'i revelation. To such a point that many professors who have researched, and they have done it partially, and I will explain. Okay, how about China? Yes, there appeared Professor Tai Degui. We met him in 1995, created the Baha'i Research Center in Shandong University, then Beijing University, then China Academy of Social Sciences. And the whole body researched the relevance of the Baha'i faith. They realized not only from the 18th century, before the new China, in the emperor's time, the Baha'i faith was shaping the thought and the pattern. In fact, the entire new era of enlightenment of China, all the people were directly influenced by the Baha'i revelation. He found 800 sources of connectivity including the teacher of Mao Zedong, including the first Washington, D.C. of China, Professor Dr. Sun Yat-sen. He realized how Martha Ruth, the early Baha'i lady who had gone around the world 4 times, spent the highest time in China. How many prominent people who are the most famous of China's today's civilization were actually affected by her and the Baha'i faith, including Lu Xun, the #1 writer in the modern histories of China. For the past 200 years, nobody surpassed him. How he was the Esperanto Association and was actually colleague of Martha Ruth and was so influenced that his brother wrote about the Baha'i faith and so did himself. There are more than just a few handful. There are hundreds of the top Chinese who shaped the modern China to such a point that you can say the Constitution of China has been formed by the direct influence of the Baha'i revelation. When it talks about universal education, equality of men and women. And the lady who was the lady that went to 1,000 villages and opened the, you can call it bounded feet of the women, and was the first front runner leader in the movement of the freedom of women of China, is Madame Yang, whose niece had become Baha'i in Boston, Liu Yiying, original name Yang. And when she introduced us in Xi'an, we went to their home, which was the government compound, like the forbidden city of the city of Xi'an. When I took Madame Rabbani to meet her, she was in the 90s. When she heard about Tahira's story and about how the Tahira who lifted up the first time ever the veil in the Islamic world society, and her story went to Tolstoy and went to the Queen of Austria, and how it affected Queen Marie of Romania, and how it went to the North America, and how Abdul Baha's 1912 visit before the women had the voting right in US. All of these, how they shaped. There is a source, a recipient, a process, and an affecting, and the connectivity research. All of this, how it went to China, and she was a lead front. When she heard, immediately she said, I'm a Baha'i. At the age of 1991. I am the effect of this revelation that created this movement. We received it, we implemented it. So not any negativity that exists in the world. The faith of Baha'u'llah is purity and positivity. And its effect and its influence in the societies in China has been total. Anything to do with class struggle is not from the Baha'i faith. It is from communism, Marxism. In fact, we as Baha'is went there and we changed it in China. We are the ones who changed the entire national policy from class struggle into China peace. China peace will rise. China harmonious society. I wrote the proposals personally, and the president of China collectively, they endorsed it and stamped it and put top secret, and yet gave it to me a copy. And now today I opened it, and it is there that the Baha'is are behind the changes of China's modern time on so many fronts. And not only China, we will go, if there was a scope, we will go to India, even from Gandhi, even before. Even we go to the Arab world. There is, in fact, with your permission, I just didn't prepare for it. As I talk and I go and I bring. And I will show, you can buy this book even in North America at the airport, or if you come to Dubai, any bookstores, you will see this. This book called Celebrating Tolerance. This is United Arab Emirates. And we will see how early Baha'i pioneers from 1953, when this nation was very poor, how they have affected the civilizations everywhere, including here. This, as you would see, is the ruler of UAE in their own official book, giving the prize of honor to Mr. and Mrs. Sabeti, Malihe Khanam. 1992, when I arrived first time in the GCC in Dubai, I stayed in their home 3 weeks. They are still alive. So I don't want to go and talk something about details, but not only that, you will see all over this book, it's all in the first pages, is the contribution of the Baha'is. Here is the early Baha'is with the father of Sheikh Muhammad of Dubai. That is Dr. Mahboubi. In fact, when I first arrived in 1992, Dr. Mahboubi is the first person who came inside the airport, took me, passed me through all the clearances because we had no time, we were late. And the passport just remained there. We went out, and then the visa was issued later and delivered to me because I was rushing to Ras Al Khaimah for a mega Baha'i conference at that time, 800-900 people from the 6 GCC. So the presence of the Baha'is everywhere has been helping, shaping, and contributing to the development of civilizations in every corner of the world. Here again, the early Baha'is with Sheikh Shaput and with the father of Sheikh Muhammad of Dubai. There was Abu Dhabi, here is Dubai. Similar things in Oman, similar things in all the GCC, including Saudi, Bahrain. Of course, we know Mr. Abul Qasim Khayzi there. And not only that, and again, when we go in to the chapter, you will see that everywhere is the Medal of Honor that the Baha'is have been receiving. So it's full of this. You can buy it. I don't want to take too much of the time to go yeah. Okay, you will see the next pages of also the Medal of Honor of another Baha'i lady, Mrs. Tabrizi, the early pioneers. So let me just only draw the cases. I only can draw cases. Do you think that the American nation enlightenment came by itself? No, 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 no. It was affected by the Baha'i revolution from very early times, from 1893. Many of the movements, the Greenpeace movement, many of the concepts. Whatever we know, there is a very easy way in the future scholars can find the connectivity. They have done it country by country, region by region. They haven't put it together in a massive mega world, but it exists. There is a compendium of the Baha'i world volumes for the past 100+ years. Every year, all the events and activities and documentations, whatever the Baha'i world body has done to the world is there documented. If any scholar can research and condenses it, will be, he can say, beyond surprised, will be enlightened that the modern civilization is the byproduct of the Baha'i revelation. This claim is a weighty claim, but it is a truthful claim. From Tolstoy to Professor August Forel to Khalil Gibran, who wrote the book Prophet and draw the portrait of Abdul Baha that exists, to many modern thinkers, at least 2,000 of them, have been affected by this revelation. Beyond that, not only the top leaders of thoughts, including Al Gore, including many more. Not only that, even Mildred Mutahede personally showed me how she took the book, The Dispensation of Baha'u'llah and the Goal of the New World Order, and gave it to Barbara Bush, who took it to President Bush when he was in office. And she was telling me it is on the bedside of him and he's reading it every day. Mildred Mutahede, anyone who knows. We know the formation of the United Nations. Many of its concepts were inspired by the Baha'i revelation. Baha'u'llah talked about stages. We know that we had League of Nations, then we had United Nations, and in the future we will have a Federation of Nations. And all of them were written, in fact, even its constitution, how it will be formed. Even a lot of its salient features are written in the Baha'i revelation. And yet not all of it has been implemented. In fact, the vast body of this revelation belongs to the future. That's why it's not only relevant to the today's world realities, and we have not even scratched but it is relevant to shaping of the future world civilization. Yes, all the wars of today would disappear, because in the Baha'i revelation, there are practical solutions. When I presented a few of the books and documents and also some terms to the leading professors of political science in several of the US universities, they also were absolutely surprised. These types of body of work have not yet started to be done systematically. It belongs to the future. Let me also still be condensed. So we know China was affected by the Baha'i revelation. US was, and I have not even scratched for example, the Black movement before Martin Luther King, the teachers of Martin Luther King, some of whom were even Baha'is. So we will find the track and the result. In fact, just like we can call it, what we call it, I even forget the sport, billiard. You hit the ball, it hits the other, and then it goes to the goal. You can say most of the positive developments of the systems of humanity have been shaped by the first hit or the first impact of the inspiration and revelation in the writings of Baha'u'llah while he was in the prison of Mecca. But this is only one level of research. The powerful one will be when the Baha'i pioneers around the world, their life stories are collected, and each in their societies, as small as the island of, let's say, Maldives, and the early Baha'is there, or Singapore, and people that I met personally who have gone. Shirin Fozda, I met her in Malaysian Baha'i summer school. She's the first person who brought the concept and personally helped and popularized and ratified a resolution so that the women can vote in Singapore. She was invited in the 1960s, I think 67, to China as the leader of the women movement. And there met with Marshal Chen Yi, whose son is my friend. Okay. And of course, the son was Minister of People's Friendship Association, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs, who actually implemented my proposal of giving a statue of peace to several countries, France, and to even Israel, the Prime Minister Sharon Peres, and the city of Haifa. You go to Haifa, you see a 35-meter statue of peace rather than liberty, given to the mayor, and the whole body of 2,000 leaders of the city were there in a ceremony, and I was there quietly. And they contributed. So in any era, in any geography, in any society, even Latin America, and I was going to talk about Shirin Fozda, how she influenced this Marshal Chen Yi and many others who said, if in the future China will adopt a religion, it will be the Baha'i Faith. A sentence that was given long before by Dr. Sun Yat-sen and earlier by Chen Ming-shu, who was the governor of the province of Guangdong, which is like a level of a prime minister, or I can call it a deputy prime minister level. So how about Japan? Phew. How about Iran itself? How much studies shows that the modern civilization of Iran, whether education, schools, anything, have been directly affected? Too much. I can go literally not hours, but days without reference and go case by case, layer by layer. The reason I jump is on a purpose. I just am shaping an image only to inspire others to realize there is a vast material that ties every single Baha'i revelation, innovative thought to individual leaders of thought of the world who are not Baha'is, who are popular, who took it and popularized in their own body of work and in their own body of political, and also the community of the Baha'is who spread, who affected that into the societies. Permeation, permeative power of the Baha'i Faith is not relevance, it's not significance. It has permeated the entire body of the human modern civilization and future. It has impregnated so many directions of the Baha'i, of the human society and civilization. It has to just be discovered. It has to just be played. I did not even go to talk about the concept of collective security, Federation of Nations, how in the future wars could be stopped and avoided, not just stopped by a world constitution, a world executive force, a collective security, and how the provisions of it are detailed, written in the Baha'i writings. I did not have a chance to talk about the Baha'i system of economy. There are many Baha'is who have written some books about it. It's available, one can go and read, but still as early a stage of understanding the whole system. But again, we as individuals and as many Baha'is and as collectively have gone to the world. Of course, behind the model of China's quick, fast rise, of course, it has been the Baha'is, whether individually or collectively, without whom China today would have been lower than India. Of course, the same, we have taken that knowledge into Africa, and you will see in 1 decade, at the most 2, how Africa will be surprisingly rise, and how in the future, other researchers will realize that the seed of that new civilization's rise of Africa also is impregnated by Baha'is. So received inspiration from the revelation of Baha'u'llah, transferred it into societies, created economic models. We are working on domestic wealth generation rather than reliance on foreign aid. Domestic creativity unleashed, so that Africa, who has been the source of human civilization, Africa has subsidized Europe for 500 years. Africa has subsidized America for 300 years. Africa has subsidized China for 100 years, but not officially. Soon, we will make it official. The first official foreign debt outbound from Africa to Europe. Game over. The mindset shift, the reality shift. How Mama Gracia, the wife of Nelson Mandela, fully into our movement. How Papa Simon, our sign of divinity, the one who leads 40 million people, the whole community has now joined forces with us. In fact, have created what I call the converge, merge, and emerge. How at the moment, there is a lot of dialogue going out, and we will be visiting him 3rd time with a summit of 50,000 people there, in which I will give the keynote with new guests. How there is a movement on the rise that the national policies, legislations of Africa are being shaped through the inspiration of the Baha'i Faith. I don't want to go too long. I don't know how much time I have taken. I don't know, I have to know where we are. If our host now is exactly 4 or 5, it's 1 hour. I believe too many things I have not even touched upon. Too many realities of connectivity I haven't showed or depicted. But suffice it to say, humanity will find itself, sorry to say in a good way, in a checkmate, in a positive checkmate. Humanity will find that all the framework, system, and conceptions, and the gifts, and the practice, and the community that will accelerate, that is a gift to humanity, has already been given. It already exists. It only needs to be discovered, applied, popularized. I always say the 5 words that I invented. First, we go and search for the truth. Then we come and not only bring our misunderstanding and pseudo-truths, or we can say fallacities and false conceptions that so many religious extremists are taking and political extremists are taking. We take the truth and we stick to the accuracy of the truth. Then we go to the depth of the truth. Then we go to the height of the truth. Once in the height, it will become popularized correctly and accurately, rather than all the falsities that have permeated the world. The Baha'i Faith is the replacement of all the mistaken notions, all the faulty, false, defective, that are destroying humanity. And the solution is already there, both in terms of the body of literature, in terms of a community, and in terms of a model that humanity will encounter sooner rather than later. Thank you for your time and attention. And remember, everything in the Baha'i revelation and all its weighty claims our soft power, our gifts, our contributions, never militant, never forced, never a second agenda, pure as it can get and open as it can get, and positive. None of the vested interests of the world will lose anything. In the Baha'i model, everyone ends up with improvement, with better benefit, better profitability. Nobody ends up with a short end of the stick. Of course, everybody's benefits grows, but to prorated degrees. Not everybody equally, not everybody the same, not every community is the same, not every nation is the same. But in a peaceful, abundance economy, abundance of love, mind, heart, community system. That's why the Baha'is are engaged on the grassroots. That's why Baha'u'llah purposefully forbid taking the sword and said, take back the sword into the shield and draw down the tongue and the heart and the mind that will rebuild the human edifice of souls and societies. That's why the model of the Baha'i faith to any religion, any extremist, any political thinker, to any economic vested interest is not at all a sign of alarm or fear. It is only the precious gift of elevation of the nations and of the whole of humanity. Blessings.
Dr. Kamalabadi, I am speechless, not only because of the content of this particular talk of yours, but because of your vigor, your energy, and your enthusiasm, which would propel this system forward. And also, thank you so much for naming the people like Shirin Fozdar, like Mrs. Mildred Mottahedeh, and many other people who started to become the trailblazers. Thank you so much. Now, friends, if you have questions, please raise your hands. I know that there are a few questions in the chat, but I would appreciate it if you address it to Dr. Kamalabadi yourself. Also, Aniela has a comment after the questions. I would like to ask Aniela to share his comment with us. Dr. Kamalabadi, thank you.
Thank you for recording it. The whole point was exactly for this, to leave it for as a thought, as an inspiration, maybe for many others who will start thinking. I have not done at all justice to how real is the contributions of the Baha'i faith to the modern world. It has built the modern world. It has been the infrastructure upon which the edifice of the future world, divine civilization, is being built upon. And how it is of importance that other future scholars will do research in this direction and will bring out not just the proof of it, because we are not in after getting credit, but will show the image and the vision and the vistas and the models and the solutions so that it can become popularized and early adopted and save the sufferings and the, what I call, bewilderment of humanity. Humanity is dying, craving for solutions, whereas the solution is with them. And yet they are so loud into the mesh of their own falsities that they are not listening. And we are not against them. It's just they themselves are making themselves more miserable and humanity and their systems miserable, whereas the solution is there. And so I hope that others will be inspired to take this train of thought and perfect it and mature it and complete it and offer it to humanity. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Gary.
We all know that the entirety of humanity has already encountered the Baha'i revelation, that the Baha'i revelation from the first era of persecution has come not only out of obscurity, is becoming the predominant force in shaping the directions and the destinies of humanity and all nations. Each nation has its own prophecies and writings about. Shoghi Effendi, when he was only 24 years old, wrote about China and its future destiny. It is amazing how, 26 years old. At the age of 24, he became the guardian of the Baha'i Faith, and 2 years later, he wrote about the massive future destiny of China. He said, let the Baha'is of the East and of the West both enter the field. Let them quicken that vast nation. He calls it a land that has its own civilization, that ranks foremost above all nations in potential, material, mental, and spiritual potentialities and powers. Let the Baha'is quicken that land, that vast land, bring it in association and harmony with other sister races and nations of the world, and by doing so, prove the reality of the oneness of the world of humanity and establish the reality of Baha'u'llah and his ability to create and forge the unity of the world of humanity. Out of that sentence that I'm paraphrasing, I captured so many directives. First of all, he is calling upon the Baha'is of the world to enter China and help China to emerge into the world community. The emergence of China into the world community in a peaceful manner is the job of the Baha'is. Why? Because China was introverted and China was ostracized, even up to date, the China bashing, the China basically blaming. The Baha'is should be different. We should, what I call, embrace China in jubilation to enter into the world community as contributor and as responsible member of the world community. That's why my first television interview for 1 hour was China's responsible integration into the world. As contributor, China as the leader, in fact, into the world community. But which part of China? All the positivities, the ancient civilization and the current and the modern. Not anything to do that will become negativity. We don't encourage any nation, whether it's China, Russia, US, Israel, the Arab side, this side, none of them. Anything that is positivity, contribute to the world. Anything negativity, wash it clean. So China, I believe there are so many informations. At the time of the Bab, there were the Bab cousin in China. The porcelain that they produced was given in the prisons of Akka, was used by Baha'u'llah and the Baha'is. That means Chinese workers contributed to the little bit of tranquility of Baha'u'llah. You know what that karma means? How much blessings they will receive, that nation? Most of the Chinese, when they researched the Baha'i faith, very easily, without prejudice, accepted it. Sometimes in an instant. I have so many cases, just by one shake hand and the name Baha'u'llah, they jumped. The amount of good that is there is unusual. Of course, the same thing exists in Africa, the purity is there. The jewels of the human soul, not the diamonds of the stones and the gold, but the jewels of the human soul. In fact, the brilliant destiny of China and America and India, and it's very interesting. China 1.5 billion, India 1.5 billion, and of course, Africa 1.5 billion. Africa a continent, China a country, and India a subcontinent. But these three, I'm heavily involved in the collective rise of all three. You can say, very major way, we have already affected the rise of China from a poor nation to a contributor nation, albeit has become again introvert and is going a bit backward, but it will come back. And now is the rise of Africa. We call it the collective peaceful rise of Africa, or the surprise rise of Africa. At the same time, we have now started the surprise rise of India and also Latin America. In fact, the team of Pope Francis have come to us and said, you have to take all of this to Latin America. Don't leave this part of humanity. Well, the Baha'i faith and the Baha'i communities have been all over. That's why, as individual, it doesn't matter I am a Baha'i or not, and I'm trying to be a Baha'i or not, my hat goes off to the Baha'i pioneers across the planet. They are like, I'm coming to a topic that I forgot that I was mentioning. When Baha'u'llah in the Aqdas said, be pulsating like lifeblood in the artery of humanity. In the sick body of humanity, we have to be the new lifeblood. And as such, he created the pattern of the Baha'is going across the planet, like a microcosm of the planet. Wherever humanity exists, Baha'is are there. Why? Because they are giving the new breath of life. So it's in China. Please read a lot of documentations online, even if you can use it in Chinese and bring it in Chinese. And then now ChatGPT and others can translate immediately. Some Baha'is of Iran, I gave them references of the Baha'i Faith of China. They immediately translated into Farsi and they are distributing it everywhere. Read, because we don't have time for Professor Taidogay and many other scholars to translate their work. There is a very unusually vast body of information of how much the Baha'i Faith influenced China and how prominent early Chinese have been Baha'is. You will be, it's like stupendous. You will be very much at awe. It's available. Instead of me describing, taking your time, go research it with any of the Chinese friend near you, put the 3 words Baha'i. When it comes up, have the documentations translated into your own languages, whether it's German, whether it is Hindi or any others. So one final food for thought. Remember, as truly humble that we are and we should be, all the spiritual giants before us, including the manifestations of God, who are limitless times greater than us. But one thing, one reality, remember, they couldn't and they didn't complete their job. Oh, I'm not saying blasphemy. I mean, technically, physically, they left it to the posterity. But we are the posterity. Take it on. Take it as your task. We have to complete it. The completion is like 99% they did. The last run is our job. What the greater sages could not accomplish, we have all the tools in our hand. Knowing that, we will accelerate. The answer to the other question also. And China, the Chinese Baha'is, we have Xiaojie here, and so many of them, will become, as Abdul Baha said, from introvert, they will be extrovert, and Abdul Baha says, each one of them will become the bright candle of the world of humanity. What does it mean? They are lighted and they will go and light others. And what did it mean? It's that the Chinese will emerge into the world community peacefully. So China peace, peaceful rise of China, China harmonious society, China's peacefully emergence to the world is the task of Baha'is. Do you think that the governments of the other countries can do that? No, they are picking fight. And also making China have to pick fight. Whether it is China, Japan, China, Philippines, China, even Hong Kong, China, the Tibet, China, Xinjiang, China, so many countries are now creating more enmity. It is the Baha'is who must create the unities of these systems together. Not only theoretical, the practical keys are in our hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Appreciate it. Thank you.